Volt is the new distortion model for Beam, and if you don't know Beam, well, it's Lunacy's beautiful multi-effect playground. It's not only pretty, but also it's very visual in terms of routings for these different effects. At the moment it has a convolution reverb, a granular effect, a time stretching and also a reverser kind of thing, a pretty simple filter, and the new distortion, Volt. Now, as you can see, each effect doesn't have too many parameters, but that doesn't mean that they are not deep. Still, the idea of this plugin is using them in different ways and different routings, so you can get deeper multi-effect kind of things. Don't forget to give a like to the video, and also if you want, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future updates. It has 3 types of distortion, and each one has only one knob. This makes it very straightforward. Hit is inspired by analog tubes, crush is beat crushing, and punch is multi-band compression. Of course, as with any compressor, when you go hard, it distorts the signal a lot. So you have these 3 types of distortion that you can combine together or use them differently in different instances of Volt. Now, for me, a good distortion can go crazy with destruction, but also very subtle to add a little bit of flavor. And as you can hear, it's doing a good job on both uses. Now, a small critique that I have is that with this interface, I'm tempted to do some parallel distortion. The thing is, I'm getting phase issues, at least in the tests that I made. So it will be great to actually have a phase flip thing for the effect, or at least for the path. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this type of interface lets you go very creatively with the different paths that you can make. For instance, you can create a very dirty signal, but use a clean signal for the convolution reverb. Or maybe you want to use the granular engine alongside the time node. Now, one thing I like to do a lot with this plugin is to actually use the grain node at the beginning or at the end of a complex signal. That way you fine-tune the type of grains that you want to have from the original sound. Now, what's interesting is that the most complex part of Volt, a distortion model, is not the distortion. Here at Reid, we can add a feedback effect. On the webpage it says that this is based on the feedback resonance of guitar amplifiers, but to be honest, what matters to me is the sound. It can get crazy very easily. I made presets for Beam for my channel members and for my patrons. You can join whichever platform you want. Both have the same benefits. Thank you so much. Now, when you leave every parameter as it is and you play with the frequency, you will hear that it sounds pretty similar to a comb filter. So I think that they are using some comb filters with a lot of resonance to create this effect. Now, with the scatter, diffusion, and open, you can start creating more crazy madness, especially if the scatter is not at 0 or at 100%. Now, you know that I like to create crazy sounds, and actually I'm using Volt mostly for the feedback rather than the distortion. That doesn't mean that the distortion doesn't sound good, it sounds excellent, and with the right amount of distortion you can change the nature of the feedback sound. But still, for instance, you can use the modulators of Beam, so each time you get a different sound out of the feedback. Or if you are like me, you can use a simple click to trigger this feedback and use a node randomizer for each one of the 4 parameters. That way, each time you press a key, you will have a different crazy sound. I mean, you can listen that some of the sounds are very noisy and horrible, but others are very interesting and can be used for something else. I mean, this is great to create crazy samples to use for resampling and resynthesis. You can go deeper, and if you hear a tone, use a tuner, and then use a sampler so you can play that kind of sound. Of course, go ahead and start using the other effects before or after volt and even in parallel, so you can create even more complex kind of sounds. Not only that, of course, you can use this for percussion loops, but if you go ahead and start programming different clicks and small bursts of sounds in a rhythmic way, you will get this kind of feedback percussions in that rhythmic manner. This is very useful to use this type of sound as some more experimental kind of percussion. Now, of course, there's one big question regarding Beam. What makes it different from other multi-effects? Well, I'm one of those people that think that workflow can drastically change the way you make sounds. And just by the looks, the workflow of Beam is very different from the workflow of something like Snap Heap. At the end, it's not only about the amount of effects, modulation, and routings that you can create, but also how you approach your sound effects making. So if you want to check out Beam, go ahead and try the demo. They also have rent to own. And if you want to buy it, consider using my affiliate links down in the description. You can use these links to buy anything you want, not only Beam, because I don't want to force you to buy anything. So go ahead and let me know in the comments what do you think about Beam and of course about Volt. Thank you so much for watching, I will see you next time and bye bye!